chasing shadows in the darkest maze. Footsteps echo in the empty hall. Mysteries waiting on our call. Bigfoot stomping through the pines. Aliens sending secret signs. EVPs in the dead of night. Ghosts dancing in the pale moonlight. Paranormal for what we bring it to you. Truth behind the veil, gotta pursue you.
All right. Hey, look at that. We're little bitty.
We're little bitty. Now we're up there now.
How you doing, Jason?
Doing good.
Good.
Got a great show tonight.
Oh man, I've been waiting for this ever since you set it up, Jason. This is one I've been like, ooh, let's do this. You know, it's funny because I've been watching Adam Davies on TV for a very long time.
Yeah.
I've seen him going all over the place. And on some of his stuff that he did, looking for Orang-Pendek and all kinds of stuff. So I really look forward to this little conversation. How you doing, Steve?
So we got Adam Davies.
Yes.
All right. So, hey, Jenny. So Adam is a renowned explorer, adventurer, and cryptozoologist dedicated to finding evidence of undiscovered animals in some of the world's most remote and dangerous locations, including the Congo, Sumatra, Mongolia, and Nepal.
That's not the beef.
So he's achieved notable results in his field work concerning creatures like David was talking about, the Orang-Pendek, Sasquatch, Yeren, and let me pronounce this right, Seljord Serpent.
Seljord Serpent. Yeah, he actually got something on that actually made the world news.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So his expertise has led to numerous appearances on major television channels, including National Geographic, Discovery Channel, History Channel's Monster Quest, and Animal Planet's Finding Bigfoot. Much of his extensive research has been self-financed, driven by his passion for mystery animals.
That's awesome.
He's also the author of quite a few books. I think 3 nonfiction accounts of his expeditions, as well as fact-based fiction novel, The Revenge of the Hairy Man. And I think his newest book is The Moon-Eyed People. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and bring him on. I might have missed a few things, so he's just a great guy there. All right, Adam.
How you doing?
Very well, very well. Good evening, gentlemen.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to say to me tonight. That was a good intro, so we've started well.
Yeah, hey, that's good. That's always a good thing. I've watched a lot of the stuff that you've done over the years and everything. And, when it comes down to it, you've been all over the world. You've done all kinds of stuff. And, what was it like when you first started doing all this stuff? What got you interested in deciding that you're going to go looking for these creatures that may or may not exist?
Well, it was a combination of things in a nutshell. So the first thing was when I was very young, I had a sister who died of neuroblastoma, which is a form of cancer. What that taught me was that you should never take life for granted. Already I was thinking, I need to do something. And then I was hit in an accident by a policeman's son who drove illegally on the sidewalk in a motorbike and crushed my leg. Oh. And I was told by the doctor that I'd probably never walk again. Certainly, I'd just limp if I did. I was determined that was not going to be the case. And I trained really hard. And a year later, I was my city swim champ. In fact, I trained for the Olympic team for a while. But my parents wanted me to pursue my education rather than go swimming. But sometimes I wonder, what if? I can't help it. Yes. So there was that. And then I I did my first degree was in history, and before that I'd read a lot of the Livingstone accounts and then novels like Heart of Darkness in the Congo. So when I read them, I thought, well, I want to live my life. Whatever I do, I want to max my life out. I also have got guts and determination. Yeah, because I've proved it to myself already with the leg. And then with the exploration, I thought, well, a lot of this is just a question of being fit and having guts. I can do this. I don't give a shit. I can go for it. So I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, were you a history teacher?
No. When I worked for the British government for many years before. Firstly, I was a program manager, sort of project manager for cable and wireless was my main job, and then I transferred into the British government because I had a postgrad in law, and I worked as a kind of lawyer for the British government. It's a long explanation, but that's basically what I was. And I met some truly evil people while I was doing that because I had to deal with people you just were so bad. But when I came to America, I couldn't do the job that I'd done in Britain because you have to be a US citizen to do that. Now, I am a US citizen now, but it's all about security clearance, blah, 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 blah. Right. So before I went, I trained as a teacher. And then when I came to the United States, when I came to San Diego, I worked as a teacher of English. So I taught English for 6.5 years before I moved to Tennessee.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was just asking because I was on your page or one of your things, and somebody was saying that you were their teacher, and they That's really looked up to you. Yeah,
he was Swedish. Yeah, so I taught all different nationalities how to speak English and sort of how to converse. And with my background as well, I also taught business English to some students. And because of my background in other matters, I taught English to military students as well. So all sorts of people.
So, in your book, Bigfoot versus the Yeti, you kind of describe events in Alaska and Nepal as life-changing. So what was a kind of a fundamental thing that shifted your perspective during those trips?
I suppose with Nepal, I felt that it was, I suppose there's always an element of danger and achievement, I suppose, with Nepal. If you've seen the Monster Quest film, Abominable Snowman, you'll see that point where I grab the Sherpa's basket because he's about to fall down. It's just a second, but he's about to go down that slope to his death. And, it really was that dangerous. That was amazing, that Monster Quest film. And obviously I went with Josh Gates as well.
Yes.
Later on with the Yeti print. But I think I was struck there that the Yeti was a real creature. It always had been historically. I mean, interestingly, the old shamanistic religions talked about the Yeti before, and they listed every known animal, and they talked about the Yeti as one of the known animals. But I was just struck by the magnificence and beauty of the place. I climbed mountains. It was just wondrous, and I'd strongly recommend people to go to Nepal. If they do, they'd have a good time. Do not go to the Congo. I am not recommending that place under any circumstances, but Nepal, very much so. I think the Alaskan thing, it was just seriously creepy, and that made it so interesting. Because if you remember, I went where long before these TV series happened. Yeah, It happened because I'd gone. It wasn't my idea. It was the idea of Stephen Major. I met him in a bar in Vancouver. We were about to go on a boat off Vancouver Island and do a Bigfoot documentary for a Native American crew, Native Canadian Indian crew, I should say, because it's obviously Canada. And he said to me, I'd like you to do this with me, this story of this hairy man that killed all these people and all that lot. And I saw that. I thought that sounds like fun.
The
And he said, of course, I'll pay you to keep me alive. And I thought that sounds like even more fun, you know. So it motivated. Obviously, his missus was upset. She's crying, saying, "Keep the Stephen alive." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, I will." So we went, and there was me and him and Josiah, and I decided when we went, it was like totally out of a horror film, like a Stephen King film. So when we go, we at that point, it's different now. It's changed now because the TV crews have done it or anything else. But at that point, there was the people in Homer, which was the nearest, because you can't just get there. You have to get a boat there. You have to get a boat. There's no other way of doing it. And all the locals all thought it was really bad, and they were shaking our hands to, when we were leaving, saying, he won't be back type guy, dude. And I was thinking, I felt like saying, Steve, double my money, like they're doing those movies.
I need payment up front. No.
Yeah, because there was at that stage, it's quite a shallow bay to go in. And at that stage, there was one captain who would take us. And he's almost like a cliche. He's like, I'm not going to swear, but I want to. He's like Robert Shaw in Jaws. He's like that insane. And he's like, it sounds like I'm exaggerating. I promise you, I am not. He was driving this boat, yeah, and there's the three of us in it, and he's going, and those are the clashing rocks, and I was like, and there's this thing, if you go this way, you're gonna die. He was like that. He was like that.
Expect lightning.
Yeah, and it gets weird because the Native Americans would not meet us. There's a village that you can only get to by boat. It has a little tiny airstrip there, but mainly you go by boat. And they wouldn't come out to talk to us because they thought it was like we were like doomed. I mean, and a lot of the tribes out there said, they said, don't go. It's the most evil place on earth. And I was like, is it? They're paying me, man. So I didn't care. I'm less reckless now than I was, just in case anyone worries. But we get there, and I decided to go on a spit of land. After we'd wandered around Port Chatham, which is a creepy place, but you've also got to keep alert because there's a lot of bear there. There's a lot of bear, and we had shotguns. So we go. I'm carrying on talking about Port Chatham. Are you cool with that, guys, or do you want me to stop?
Oh no, yeah, go ahead.
I'm conscious. I'm talking about it in detail just because I feel like it. But when we wandered around, it had a creepy vibe to it, and I'll come back to that later. But what I wanted to do, because I'd looked at the maps, and you just didn't know what to expect there. No one had been there for decades. There had been maybe a couple of people who'd landed on a beachhead, but they hadn't really hung around. Nobody had hung around. And so I wanted a place where we could have a really good visibility of the area. But you've got to be very careful as well, because Alaska has some of the highest tides in the world. Yeah, so there's a lot to consider. And you don't know the land because no one's lived there for decades. You have no idea. But I wanted to there's only three of us, so I wanted it to be, in a way, like a military thing. So only one of us is asleep at any one time for the time we're there, yeah? There's always two on watch and do that. That was my plan with all of that. And then that worked. But the dude just drops us off and he says, I'll see you in a couple of days or whatever. And that was that, send me a satellite message, because we had a sat phone. And that was that. And you could tell it was wild, because one of the coolest things, when you just think, this is in June, by the way, in Alaska, it does go, it's not 24 hours of daylight, contrary to myth. It has something I call the gloom, where it went really dull for a few hours and then it come back up, yeah? Just like a night in a day in Mordor or something. It was like one of those sort of things. Anyway,
being a truck driver, I've driven up there during that time of the year, so I've got photos of of it being, it was midnight and it was kind of like dusk.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
Like
that's a great way of putting it. For
Yeah.
about 3 hours or so, 3 or 4
Yes,
hours.
and then bam, all of a sudden the sun's back up, and you're
The
like,
sun's back up. So that was
What
perfect
happened?
for us because we needed to see. And I went back twice, by the way. I went back one other time, sorry. So I was there twice. And that's relevant to think. But on that occasion, I mean, it was, I got something really weird on the thermal. I had a thermal, and I saw this thing just bipedally just run down through the woods. And if you and it was used for the Discovery Channel when we went back, for Alaska's Triangle. And I said, we better get ready for this. This is really, really bad, And anyway, it stopped suddenly. But to go to my point, one of the coolest things on a positive note was at the time there was a lot of otters there, sea otters, obviously, and their babies had never seen humans. So at night, in inverted commas, they would hold up their babies to show their babies people. Yeah.
wow.
And they do that just to show their babies people, but they just do it offshore enough, and they'd watch us. And I called it the Otter Show. So I'd be watching them and they'd be watching me. And we stared at one another. And that was basically Saturday night,
Oh, that's awesome.
And I went again, and then weird stuff happened when I went again. And that was probably the profound thing.
Yeah.
That's a crazy place. I mean, I've never been, but I've seen it on TV.
Well, it's very expensive to just go as well, The boat alone was $1,000. I don't know whether it's changed now. Alaska's expensive. All right, let me start with that. Alaska is a very expensive place. It's extremely beautiful, but it's extremely expensive. And everything, like the food, is really expensive. Yeah. So everything you buy or cater for is fab. I think Alaskans get an allowance off the government if you live there, just for living in Alaska.
Wow.
I'd have to check that, but I think they do. Anyway, it was $1,000 in just for one trip in, and $1,000 out on the boat. So just to land there, and the trip's only a few hours. It was $1,000.
Wow.
Woo. That was crazy. I got a free trip because I was driving truck.
You was working.
Yeah, I was working.
And I know I did. I went up on that route one time. I went to the Arctic, and I went on the ice trucker route.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether you did it all the way to the oil refinery where the Arctic is. Well, there's a place called Dead Horse, famous because the horses died because it was so damn cold.
Wow.
And I went there and I swam in the Arctic Sea at the top there. Yeah.
Wow.
I bet that was cold.
Yeah, it was cold, but I was fine, largely untouched.
Yeah.
So there we are. But there was just before we'd swam, the only thing that you got to be really conscious of was a polar bear had killed a seagull on the beach. And polar bears are the worst predators. They will not stop. They are not afraid of people. If they fancy having a go at you, there's only one thing you can do. You either kill it or it kills you.
Yeah.
Was that? That simple.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The polar bears aren't anything to be messed with for sure.
No, they're the worst. I mean, they're worse than grizzlies.
Yeah.
Grizzlies will mostly run away. I've had 2 rough encounters with bears, but in my life, one here and one in California, funnily enough. But mostly bears will run away, but polar bears won't run away.
No, they see a steak dinner.
That's it. Well, basically, you are. I mean, what you always have to realize, and I think it's a good point in these sort of environments, is that you are made of meat to some things, and that's all you are, just meat.
Yep.
I'd look like a buffet then.
Well, you are a buffet.
Yeah.
And that's how they see you. And some things just want to eat you, and that's just the way it is.
So, in Nepal, you went with Josh Gates in Nepal, right?
The second time I went to Nepal, I went with Josh Gates. The first time I went with the History Channel.
Was that the one that he went to the monastery and they had a.
I didn't go to the monastery. I got because I had to be in the US. So the background to the story is this. His production company contacted me about a good place to go to take him, for that show. And I had already been to the West, and a big scan of the West I came to the conclusion that it would be, if they are there, that they're very few and far between, and they're on the edge of extinction. There's a long reasons why I came to that, but there is. But I thought the best place to go, funnily enough, was bearing in mind the concentration of recent sightings, was where he'd been before, in Destination Truth, where his tracker, Thule, had found a print, a Yeti print, because there's been a lot of sightings around there, and I was getting the intelligence about it. So, and then he was to go to Bhutan, but I had to be in San Diego, so I had to leave him around the monastery area, just around the monastery area. So he did this abseil off this cliff thing, and then he goes off to the monastery, and eventually to base camp, and then to Bhutan, which I really wanted to go to, but then that's the rest of the story, basically.
Yeah. I was just wondering about the
scalp.
Yeah.
That's not a Yeti scalp. That's
okay.
not a Yeti scalp. They tested the hairs on it, and it's not. I was trying to get a hold of one in Mongolia, which I think would have been cooler, but the monks wouldn't let me have it. So I did try very hard, though, but they wouldn't let me. But there we are.
So when you was in the Congo, you actually got shot at, didn't you?
Yeah.
Got arrested in Mongolia?
Yes.
Man. Was there anything while you've done all of this stuff that you've done that you actually was like, okay, that's it? That's it.
No. Sorry, there was yes, no. Let me expand to make your job a lot easier. The thing about the Mongolian thing is actually quite funny, in a way. So I'll tell you the story behind that. So I was looking for the death worm. Nobody had really looked for it. I like the idea of it because there's only two people who had ever given it any sense, and one was Roy Chapman Andrews in 1922 when he was asked by the president of Mongolia to look for it. And Roy Chapman Andrews is actually the inspiration for Indiana Jones. He's the archaeologist on which it is based, which he is based. So he looked. And then there was a Czech explorer called Ivan Macaulay, who I was in contact with. And I just love the idea of it. I love the idea of the name of it. I wanted to go to Mongolia. It's a massive country. It's the size of Western Europe. The second time I went with National Geographic, I navigated across the whole of it with just a handheld GPS because there are hardly any roads, but that's a whole different adventure. But on this time, I'm going to the border now between China and Mongolia at that time. I don't know what they're like now, but they weren't exactly the best of friends. But there was a lot of Chinese doing business in Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital. But they weren't friends particularly. But the concentration of deathworm sightings were on the border near China and Mongolia. So I had to go there, and so get down there. There's nobody there, obviously, for miles and miles and miles. And then we get to this little border town, and there happens to be this guy. What was he? He was a colonel, and he was in charge of a base there. And he had a couple of hookers with him, you could tell. And he sat down, and we had a vodka with him. We were polite to him because you don't get anywhere in Mongolia unless you have vodka. So we had a couple of vodkas, and we chatted away. We exchanged snuff, which is what they do. And he said, you're going past my base in a day. I'll see you there. And it's a big thing for him. Anyway, we stayed longer than we planned in an area some giant spider thing attacked us, but that's another story. But we were there for a day longer than we planned because we were busy doing stuff. Anyway, turned up at this thing, and his army base, and this soldier immediately comes out and drags my colleague in, yeah, because there were two of us, as well as the driver and the translator. And then I'm told to sit in the Jeep. And then he drags me in. And I'm trying to memorize ways to escape. Yeah. I'm thinking about where's the wall? Where's this? I thought this is my chance to try and get as much information as I can to try and escape when I need to, if I can. I know it sounds weird, my life, but I know it's weird. Anyway, so
Sounds exciting.
So I get in there, and this colonel bangs his fist on the table, and he's got a major in with him, because you can tell by the ranks because of the pips and all that.
Yeah.
And he said, one of the things he said to me, my translator's there. This is what I'm building to. He says, "Are you a Chinese spy? Because if you are a Chinese spy, I will kill you." And I said, I laughed. I couldn't help it. I said, tell him, no, I'm not a Chinese spy. Talk about a loaded question. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So then, but I had contacts in Ulaanbaatar, and I got my translator to phone up basically his general. And his general comes on the phone, and I don't speak Mongolian. I knew a few words, I'd learned a few words to get by, but there's some universal swear words, let me tell you, gentlemen. And I could hear them down the phone as he was getting shouted at. Yeah, and we got released, so that was that.
That's awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So the Congo was different. That's a poignant thing. I'll tell you a story, because I think about this every Christmas, because this is one of my most important stories. I want to tell you that one bizarre thing you do is eventually you get used to being shot at, which might sound strange to you, but it's true. But in the midst of all of that mayhem, I go into there's a civil war going on across the Ubangi River. And I go into the jungle. It's tough. I come out a month later. Okay. Back to the missionary's house, because when you go from Brazzaville, the airport, you fly into this place called Mfondo, which is a border town. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is on one side, and Congo Brazza is on the other. Yeah. So across the Ubangi River, there's a civil war coming on. I've got a white face. I look like a mercenary. Yeah, a lot of those people are running away. They shoot at me. That's just what happened. There's a lot of artillery fire going on ahead. It wasn't that they had a personal vendetta against me. They were just scared.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they were very bad shots, but they were just scared, and that's the way it is. But this is an important thing to understand this environment, because in this, and I was thinking about this guy just yesterday, because there was a guy there called Dr. Joe Harvey, an American doctor. And he could have earned a lot of money being a doctor in the United States. A lot of money. He was good, very good. But he chose to volunteer in that hellhole. Yeah, with all those insidious diseases. There was no other doctor. And I volunteered to help him at the hospital. And I held down a woman while she had life-saving surgery, and the guy was also helping hold her down because there's no anesthetic. The guy would run out. The guy who was helping, half his face had gone because he had leprosy. And the pair of us are doing this. And this was, and he's talking through the incisions with me as we go, like I'm some nurse. I mean, I've never seen this stuff before. But I had to do it, I had to help him.
Yeah.
And that was what he did, that was what he did. And it was very humbling because I thought, this is a much better person than I am, much better. And when I was due to leave, and it was nearly Christmas, so it's about the 17th, 18th of December, And getting back, I mean, I didn't just I had to fly back, and then I had to get through Brazzaville, which was a dangerous hellhole, being shot at the plane. There's a lot to do just to even get there. And Dr. Joe said to me, you know, can you take a package back to England with you to post to America? You know, can you do that? Because it's never going to get to America if we post it from here, you know. So I was like, absolutely, I will. And they were making a tape for their families as well. They'd got a few cassette tapes. Yeah, that was the time. And then we all sang Silent Night. So we're round the tree, and this is why, to me, Silent Night is the most important Christmas hymn. Because we were round this. I'll never forget this. We were round this tree, and we're singing Silent Night. And then you heard Holy Night, boom, all is calm. And I was hard as nails. I was as hard as nails. I'd had a knife fight in Kinshasa. I'd been shot at. I'd just crossed the Lakula Swamp, which is hell on earth. And I was like, I'm really moved by this. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, I was in that zone. And yet that touched my icy heart at that stage, you know, and always will. And I took the package back and I posted it. But there goes a greater man than I. That's all I want to say.
That's amazing.
It is.
That's amazing.
Have you ever tried to, or have you thought about writing Adam?
You know, I did just the other day, and I'm going to. That was what I was thinking. I should really.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Because I didn't for a long time, because he was going to be in the Congo for ages. And that was, I mean, this is 2000. So that was the days really before, you know, the social media that we have right now. But there's no reason why I don't look for him now. I should.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know you've been doing a lot of stuff here lately too.
Yeah.
You've been running around with Mr. Greg.
Oh, Greg, is he in the chat? I can't see the chat.
I don't think so.
If you click on
Natalie's
over
in
on
there.
the side somewhere, it should show you.
Yeah, it's not letting me do it at the moment. But it's my computer, not you guys.
Gotcha.
It's no technical issue on yours. But yes, Greg. Yeah, I've knocked out with him. Yeah, well, I've been in America for 10 years now, and I when I moved to Tennessee about 3 years ago, I made contact with Greg about a few years ago, a conference in Texas, and Greg's a very nice guy, and obviously I'm part of Relic Films now, along with Greg, Natalie, and Melissa. And you know, the thing I like about those films is that we can decide what we want to do and shape our own film and shape the content, which is great, you know. So we can kind of make whatever films we want because it's unrestricted. All we have to do is agree on a theme, and off we go. And I love that. And you know, and that film, The Land Between the Lakes, is an extraordinary film. Of all the films that I have, you've got to see that film. You've got to see that film. It's an amazing film. Relic Films, The Land Between the Lakes.
Was that his last one he did?
Yeah, it's the one where we're in the land between the lakes. And
that's the one where the things like scream at you guys.
Well, I'll tell the story very quickly for anybody else. So I met Craig in Texas, and I said and we were friends, you know, we got friends at conference and all that, not chatting away. And he invited me to go to the Land Between the Lakes with him, and I'd not been, and it was a place I thought fancied going. I heard a bit about it, and I thought, well, yeah. And the first day we get there a little bit early, Greg and I, and we were just doing a bit of a recce of a spot to do some interviews, and we found a nice spot. And he did a few master interviews before everybody else got there. One he did was with me and Barton and Martin. Janice was there at that stage, the camera woman. But we did a few of those, and then just as luck would have it, there was this beautiful sunset that went on, and Brent then, who's a cameraman, he was very good at what he was doing. He was being nominated for an Emmy at the time, again because it's relevant to the story, and he sends up a drone and get this pretty sunset, and we're happy, We thought, oh, that was a great day. And I turned around to Martin at the end of it. I said, well, the next sequence we want to shoot is an area, going out at night to do a Bigfoot search. Can you name anywhere? And he said, well, there's a place I go to, which I think is a good spot. It's about an hour away from here, though. And I said that to Greg, and Greg's like, yeah, let's go for it. So we went, yeah. We go later on at night, and there were a couple of trucks, and it's relevant to the story because we get down there, and Martin and Barton go straight up the hill with Janice. It's a graveyard on a hillside. And me and Brent and Greg are just getting out the stuff, and we hear this roar, this roar. Now, I've seen gorillas in the wild in the Congo. I've seen orangutans in Sumatra, yakati. My point is, I'm familiar with great apes, I know, but I cannot emulate the chest cavity of this thing. This roar was enormous. And I'm only telling this from my perspective, this story, but this is just how I felt. And we were astonished. And Greg, this thing was in front of us, and you could see a pair of red eyes about 9 feet in the air. I could see them. Now, that's interesting from 2 points of view. They were not luminescent, and also it defies evolution. So from my point of view, I'm processing this, which is interesting. Greg says that there's another one crouched behind the truck, which was throwing something. And Brent shouts, we've got to get out of here. We've got to get out of here. Greg grabs the back of his coat to stop him from running, which was wise.
Yes.
But Brent particularly.
Yes.
And then Janice lets us, I realized, because Janice said that there were several up on and she could see red eyes on the top, that they were flanking us, which was remarkable behavior. It was like a military strategy.
Yep.
So the one in front of us was distracting us, but if they were going to come at us, they were going to come at us from the sides. So that's when I shouted for everybody to come together, because I thought we were in serious danger, and I still think we were in serious danger. I don't want to ruin the rest of the film, but that's a great film.
It's a great. Yes, we've watched that film, and I'll tell you, it was. Jason and I, after we watched it, was like, man, that's probably one of the best Bigfoot documentaries I have ever watched.
And I think for me, I'm not just saying it. I think for me, it is the best.
Yeah.
Simply because there is a scene in there which is unique. That's genuine, and I emphasize that word, interactions with Bigfoots and how people react and behave in that situation. And there's no other sequence in any film legitimately like that. There isn't. No. And so for that scene alone, it's the best one ever. I mean, Greg put it together well. He's done it on a shoestring budget, and credit to him. I've been in productions that have cost $1 million film. I mean, like Yeti Massacre on Discovery, that was at least that. But Greg's done it for a tiny fraction of that because he was self-financed, and he did a really good job. So, and he's got another film out. Well, Relic have got another film out. They've got a conference. We've got a conference at the end of January in Alabama. And I know tickets are on sale for that. But also at that, there'll be a film premiere of The Vanished. And that's fascinating. I love those stories. So since I moved to the Smokies, I was always very interested in the stories of the disappearing people. Mm-hmm. There's the famous one with Dennis Martin,
yep,
6-year-old boy who disappeared, and the Green Berets went out to look for him, and even they couldn't find any evidence of him. And there's loads of speculation as to what happened to him. And for this film, I wanted to contrast it, because that was 1969, with the disappearance of Mike Heron in 2008. So relatively recently. But I thought that story was really interesting too. So the guy's a very successful businessman. He lives in Maryville, where I live, but he's also got a property in Happy Valley, which is on the edge of the Smoky Mountains National Park. And when I say the edge, it really is. It's the next. It's the tree line is right where the property is, and he was going about his business, and one day he just disappears. His wallet and keys are left in his car. His ATV is abandoned and it's a complete mystery what happened to him. So in that film, we seek to find some answers as to what happened, and some very interesting and extremely weird stuff turns up in that film. And that's what, 6 weeks away till that premiere.
Yeah,
So,
the 31st, right?
It's the 31st of January, yeah, I think.
We've already bought our tickets. We're going to go watch it.
Oh, you should totally go watch it. I'm glad you're going to watch it. Good job, guys. Good job.
We've already got our hotel rooms for Friday and Saturday nights. So
brilliant. Well, you'll have a great time. I mean, it is, and I encourage everybody else to watch it because I've already seen an hour of it. So I can say with some veracity, it's going to be really good.
Yeah, I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing, I think. Especially, you know, watching his other films that he's done. I mean, I think it's going to be excellent. Now, you've started doing some like ghost investigations.
Yeah, also? I did. Well, I've got an Adam. I've got an Adam Davies Explorer YouTube now, and the reason and it's a lot of fun, you know, to do that. But cryptids has always been my main interest, but I've always had an interest in the paranormal and ghosts. So I told you earlier on at the start of your interview that I lived in San Diego for 6.5 years. Well, the first year I got to America, I worked as a volunteer at the Whaley House, which is known as one of America's most haunted houses. And all sorts of weird stuff went on. But one thing I learned, I do feel that I'm going to go tangentially here because there's an important point I want to make here. I do think that some abilities are inherited and kind of a gift. So what do I mean by that? So, for example, I don't know you two guys, but one of you could be really good at football, yeah? And the other one could be really good at math. Yeah, you could be a good chess player. I don't know. You could be a good Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know. But, you know, so I'm very good at swimming, for example,
right?
As we heard. But I suck at football, soccer. Yeah, I really wish I was really good at it because there's a market for those players. But you know, I just didn't have the skills.
Yeah.
But one thing. My father's always been my great grandmother was a well-known psychic on my father's side. My father could always see auras and things like that. My sister saw ghosts. And my father, I mean, he told me a story he only told me this like about 6 or 7 weeks ago. But he'd never said it before. We were just on the phone talking. And he said that before my sister, I've got a living sister and a sister who's passed in case there's any confusion. But before my sister died, he said, and before she was even ill, he said he had a dream. And he said Alexandria, that she's my sister who's passed, was in hospital. He said, and he'd gone to see her. And there was an Italian-looking girl, because my sister was very blonde-haired and blue-eyed, yeah? A lot of my genetics are Scandinavian. Yeah, so I know I'm darker, but a lot of that side of my family would be blonde hair, blue eyed, yeah, you know, and that's what they look like. Like my daughter is blonde haired and blue eyed, even though she dyes her hair a myriad of colours. That's what she really is. So he said that there was this dark haired Italian looking girl in the bed next to her, and he said that when he went there, he said he remembered having that dream because the girl was in the bed next to her. Now, I mean, you know, that he told me that was very poignant. So he clearly had a premonition. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. And I did wonder whether some of these things are hereditary. So when I started, I didn't think I had those abilities in the same way as my sister. But when I started at the Whaley House, I got to know when the spirits were around. So how did I know? It would be the easiest way I can equate it is, you know, when you're on top of a roller coaster and you get those butterfly feelings in your stomach.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? That little level of excitement.
Yep.
Well, I had those, and I would I would have those, and I'd know when they were around, and the ghosts would ask for me. So when they had people with ghosts hunting and stuff like that with the EVPs, and I was upstairs, the ones in the courthouse would go, "Where's Adam? Where's Adam?" You know, and they do that. So, and I had a few times where I directly saw orbs with my own eyes, and there was a few occasions where I was so used to them, I could put my hand out and this orb would come into my hand. Yeah, there's lots of photographs. Wow. I have to get some at some point. So I was really cool, and I enjoyed it a lot. Anyway, I didn't do anything on that for years, and then I decided to do it recently with Teresa, and I've enjoyed it. You know, so I'm going to do more of it for the YouTube channel because it's been fun. I did a couple. I did one at the Old Eureka Inn, and there was a green orb there, and you see the green orb hit her EMF, and then the EMF lights up. Yeah, so you know you can often say that's a lens reflection or camera or whatever, but if you watch that Old Eureka Inn thing, you'll see the orb shoot towards her EMF, and boom! At that exact moment, it lights up and goes mad.
That's corroboration right there. So.
Corroboration, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought that was very cool. That was at the Old Eureka Inn. And there's another one at the Balsam Inn that's to come. And stuff happens there, but very different. So and I'm going to do more. We're going to do more. I'm going to research these places, and there are other ideas for paranormal films with Relic soon. I've got some really exciting stuff that we're just discussing at the moment. So there we are.
Yeah, that's what Jason and I primarily do is that stuff, and now we're wanting to go out and get to do some Bigfooting and stuff. We've just never had the opportunity or the chance to do it yet, but that's what we primarily do. And I really like it. From an early age, at the age of 3, I started being able to see ghosts, and I've seen them my whole life.
I've never seen one. I'd love to be able to see one, you see. And I think that's wonderful. I try to tune myself in. But I've not been able to do it yet. Well, my sister, she could do it, and she saw this figure. She described him. She says, "Oh, it's like translucent," and he's going about my house, and it was bothering. We were speaking, like we were Facebooking because she lives in a little island called Jersey, and my mum was at home in an area near Buxton, and my mum was a massive skeptic. Yeah, hated it when my father discussed it. Didn't believe in any of it, and actually very dismissive, which is unusual for her because she's a bit of a bohemian hippie, but she was very, very, very dismissive of it. And then Natasha describes this ghost to us, and my mum's just like mouth open, and she said, "Oh, that's your great granddad Edgar, but he was dead before we were born." You know what I mean?
Wow.
So he's like poking around the house. He's like poking around her house, and she saw him regularly.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so I had some interactions with spirits in Michigan when I was there. And that was very, very strange. I had one talk to me very, very loudly, shout my name and shout help me when I was in Michigan in this place. Very, very, very loudly. So I think, for me, you've been seeing them since you were 3.
Yes.
For me, I have to work on it more. But the more I work on it, kind of the better I get. Yep. So in this, I want to use the sports analogy as well. Like I might naturally be gifted at swimming, but unless I practice, I'm just not going to be, it doesn't matter. But I feel like you've got that gift that came to you when you were little.
Yep.
I have to work on it.
Yep.
But when I work on it, it's kind of interesting because I get better at communicating.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you'll find that too, because I think even Jason, has found it over the years that the more you start tuning into these things, the more you can see, you can feel, like how you talk about that. We went to Chickamauga, and when we hit the Chickamauga, battlefield, it felt like someone set 100 pounds of weights on my shoulders the whole time. I got really sick to my stomach, And I actually saw a Confederate soldier there. He took his hat off and was waving at me.
He waved at you, did he?
Yeah. He took his
He
hat
you.
off like that and started just doing this right here, like come here, you know.
Did you do anything to him in response?
Nothing. No, we was driving in the car because it's like a self-guided tour thing. But I told Jason and everybody, I was like, look, there's a guy standing right there, but no one else was able to see him. So.
No one else could see him. Oh, very cool.
But he looks, when I see them, they all look like me looking at you. They all look real.
They look really real.
They look real. Yeah, they don't look like dead people. I've never seen one that looked dead. They all look like they're alive. Yeah.
How do you know? I know this isn't. I'm sorry. I've got to ask this follow-up question. I know you're interviewing me, but I'm very curious.
Yeah.
How do you know? You know that I can see why you'd know a Confederate soldier is a Confederate soldier.
Yeah, because what he's wearing.
Because he was wearing. But how do you know you can? It's a dead person, or it's not somebody living. How do you know they're dead?
Well, kind of that feeling like you was talking about. You know, I get this feeling, and then that's what made me look. But then when I got the corroboration of asking Jason and everybody else in the vehicle, you guys see him, and no one else in the car could see the guy standing there. I'm like, well, okay, never mind. You know, but you know, I think some of the things. What's funny about having that gift, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. The way that mine seems to work, it's hard to distinguish between the real, you know, the living person versus the dead person, because if they were standing next to each other, I would have a hard time saying this one's the dead one and this one's the one that's alive.
Right. That was what I was interested in.
Yeah.
So you couldn't tell really.
No, sir.
It's that solid for you. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And that's what scared me at a young age, because I'd wake up really early in the morning and there'd be like 3 or 4 people standing in my bedroom. And so I'd jump up screaming and run into my mom's room going, you know, there's people in my bedroom. And of course, when there's never anybody there.
And what do you think they wanted? They just wanted to chat or what?
I don't know. You know, that's something that I've always wondered.
Yeah.
I've never had them throughout my whole life. I've never had them talk to me. So I've never had an audio experience, a clairaudient experience of any kind. Mine have all just been visual.
And that's fascinating. So I've never had a visual, but I had a very clear audio.
Yeah.
Very clear. And I've had those feelings and sensations, and I've had those orbs, but I've never seen one directly. I hope so, to see one directly. I'm certainly going to keep trying, because I find it, enormous fun, if nothing else, to do that.
It is.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, we get asked a lot, you know, what scares you? And I'm like, no, sorry, but no. When it comes to ghosts, I don't get scared. I run towards. I'm not a runaway.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. It's great. I've loved doing it. I'm going to carry on doing it, and we're going to set up some very cool and unique stuff in the future on ghosts. I promise you, gentlemen. I'm working on it.
Do you think that I see more and more cryptid researchers using paranormal equipment, like Stephen says in the chat room? He thinks they're really effective at, you know.
Well, I think it will depend. It number one, I'll try anything if I think it might get results. Yeah. So nothing, you know, I think you've got to think outside the box in order to get results. And I have done in the past and got results. As you said in your introduction, with the Orang-Pendek and with the Seljord Serpent. The second thing is, it depends on the cryptid, really. I mean, some things are going to be work better with techniques with the cryptid, depending on what it is. So you know, I think Bigfoot is probably the strangest of the lot, but I wouldn't think the paranormal stuff would work very well with the Orang-Pendek, though. I feel like it's a bipedal orang, and that's about all there is to it. Right. I don't think there's anything particularly ethereal about it. Yeah, right. So for me, it would be a waste of energy. I wouldn't do it. Now, I could be wrong. I could be, but I don't think so. but with Bigfoot, Dude, whatever gets results is the weirdest one of the lot. Whatever gets results, we'll try it. We'll see how the ball rolls. But one thing I will say is, you know, we were doing an interview for Beyond the Ordinary, which is the new sort of talk show that Relic have started. Last night with Tim Dills, we were talking to him. And everyone on that panel, I think, myself, Natalie, Jamie, Melissa, and Greg, and Tim, you know, as the guest, we would have all had slightly different views about Bigfoot, what Bigfoot may be, its level of intelligence. So Tim, for example, would say they're more intelligent than us. I don't think they are. Yeah, I think they've got certain different intelligences and abilities, but I don't think they are. But that's totally cool. That's Tim's opinion, and I respect that. Yeah. Right. What I struggle with sometimes is the fact that you have to make value judgments about evidence, and I'm not saying that, and so you have to take it at its worth. But people can get very vicious and ridiculous. You know, Tim's a good man, very honest man. I like him a lot. He has a slightly different opinion to me as to the level of Bigfoot's intelligence. So what? You know what I mean? Right. But in the Bigfoot world, that can be enough for somebody to become mortal enemies, and that's nonsensical. Yeah, it's nonsensical. You know, we none of us know anything for certain. Yes. Some evidence based on our own biases, on our own methodology, we're going to assess as less credible than others. We can't just say everything's the same. That's not notional. But you know, you might have a different opinion. You might be telling me Bigfoot's a ghost or whatever. I'm not going to dismiss. I don't think it is, but I'm not going to dismiss you because of that. Say, we shall never speak again. How very dare you? I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yes, some people do that. Some people,
and that's my point. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, when it comes to the woo side, especially, like, you know, saying that there's a possibility that they have other abilities other than what you would think that just a normal bipedal animal would have, and that's enough to divide.
Well, I'm okay with that. I mean, the only thing I'd say when you talk about woo that you have to be extremely careful of is that people don't build a fabric around it, right, which is quasi-religious.
Right.
Or, so because that's, you know, so I've heard people say with all sincerity that they're just all goodness and light, and they just want to love you, and there can never be a harmful one, you know. And for me, that's when you dismiss evidence as being nonsensical. Because, and why do I dismiss that? And not dismiss the person. I'd still be respectful, but why would I dismiss that? Because there's no evidence ever of that ever being the case. So, you know, let's take my dog. There are good dogs and bad dogs. Yeah, there are. Yeah, and people, nice people, not so nice people. Why would every example of every species be benevolent? That's just not credible. That's not absurd. Credible analysis to me. Yeah. So I would not waste any mental energy on that.
Right.
But Harley's point about everyone, about nobody being an expert, that's true. But I think it moves past that point to the sense that you do have to make your own judgments about evidence and where something might be and not be. Because not least you're deciding who you should research with, or what equipment you should take, or where are the best places, and that's all assessment of evidence. Yeah. But what I'm not about is denigrating somebody else who has a different approach.
Right.
Sheesh, you know, if you go and use a REM pod and you find a Bigfoot, good on you. I'll be your biggest cheerleader. It won't be something I'll use, but I'll be your biggest cheerleader if you're right. Yeah, because I just want you to succeed.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, a lot of people don't see it that way.
You were talking about
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
What did Greg say? I can't see chat, so what did he say?
He'll say that David and Jason make good shows.
Yeah, that's good.
He was on there. They've been on there. Him, Natalie is on there. Harley's on there.
His first words was when he come on was squirrels. I don't know what that
Squirrels. Oh, I'll tell you what that means. Because we were interviewing we were interviewing last night. You'll see Tim Dill's interview on Beyond the Ordinary, and Greg basically from nowhere created a giant ground squirrel that could build nests. It was really quite a remarkable achievement for one man. I'm not sure how he managed it, but that's what he's talking about.
That's amazing. Oh man. So
Yeah, Tim Dills is on too. He's in the chat.
Okay, good. Well, I've just used him as an example. Then he's a nice guy, very, very straight and honest guy, is Tim Dills.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that because he's there. I said it before I knew you were in the chat.
yes, absolutely
Turned up.
he did. So what was one of your main things for wanting to move like over here, you know, in East Tennessee area and stuff like that? Was it to get closer to the Smoky Mountains and all the crazy stuff that's possibly there?
Sorry, Teresa's in the background pointing to giving me thumbs up, going, me. That was why you were here. So I couldn't help laughing because she's like heckling me from behind the computer screen. So
That's funny.
Well, there's a combination of things about why I moved to America in the first instance. So because I want to bring in an important point here. So I think it was 2008, I was with Dr. Jeff Meldrum in China. And then when I was there, I'd not looked for Bigfoot yet. And I'd originally pitched the idea to Monster Quest to look for the Yeren in China. And they paired me up with him. And I didn't, and it would like, we got on fabulously, but we were very different. So he was a Latter-day Saint bishop, you know, and he was non-drinking and non-smoking. And I can't say the same about all those things. Right. So I was like, sheesh, we're sharing a room. How's this going to go? But we got on really, really well. Really well. Super guy. So sorry he passed away. But when we were sat there in a hotel room in Beijing, we'd finished doing the filming in Beijing before we went off to Hubei province. And I said to him, you know, tell me about this Bigfoot thing. Is there anything in it? Should I look for it or whatever? And he's like, absolutely you should, Adam. And got his laptop out, gave me loads of examples, why and when and all that lot. So I can honestly say that if it hadn't been for Jeff Meldrum, I would have never bothered doing any of that stuff. And I wouldn't be sat here now. So it was the first starting point. And then I went and moved to San Diego, and after my marriage split up, it was like 6.5 years there. My then marriage ended. My then marriage said, you know, that's it. But I was already a US citizen, and by then, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do next? And Teresa, I'd been over to the Smokies a few times. First of all, for a conference in Gatlinburg, the Smoky Mountain Conference. And I thought, oh gosh, this place is nice. And then I started going out and researching with her and coming over more, you know. So she said, well, why don't you come here? After I originally lived in Ohio for 6 months, and then I went from Ohio to the Smokies, and I love it. Yeah,
it's a beautiful place.
Yeah. We live well. Do you live in Maryville?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we live just right down the road.
Yeah, we're just right. We're here in Loudon, so
Loudon County.
Oh, you do live in Loudon?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't realize you lived that near. Wow.
Yeah, we're literally a stone's throw away.
I think I was at Tellico Lake the other day, a few days ago. I went through Loudon the other day.
Yeah, that's funny. See, we're neighbors.
Yeah, we are. Literally, you must be only like half an hour away from me, if that.
Yeah, at most, depending on where you are exactly. Yeah.
I'm right in the center of Maryville. Right in the
Oh, yeah. Because we're from where we are right now doing this show. We could be on 321 in, I don't know, 10 minutes. So,
Well, I live right near Blunt Hospital without giving my street address. Okay?
right.
I live right near Blunt Hospital, so
Because
that's
next
where
thing you'll know, you'll have people going. So I had
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I had
thing
some of that when I was in California one time. I learned my lesson. Believe me.
That's why we say, we're in the bunker.
Yeah. I literally had a few people rap on my door in San Diego. So.
Oh no!
No, so I won't be naming my street in case anyone puts it in chat. What street?
Yes, yeah.
No.
Ain't happening. East Tennessee.
No.
That's funny. So we might have to take you to the last place that we went and did an investigation sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called the locals here call it the Coogee Booger.
The Coogee Booger.
Yeah. So it's
there could not be a more appropriate East Tennessee name than that.
Yes.
Like you just pulled it out of your pocket. Tell me about the Coogee Booger. I'm interested.
So what's crazy is that, and this is, I moved to this part or to Loudon when I was 15.
Uh-huh.
And this is a story that I've heard the whole time I've ever lived here. But so a lot of people have seen Bigfoot in that area.
Oh.
And they call it the Coogee Booger, right? It's a booger, kind of like a wood booger or anything like that. And
actually, I want to correct him. When we were younger, it was called Coochie Booger.
It was a Coochie Booger. We've changed it just a little bit because of that.
Coochie. I don't know if you're familiar with that word, but
I know what it is. Yeah.
It's not a good word. It's not a good word.
Yeah. I want to change it back to Coochie Booger. I think that's
People are like, no, you're with the wrong woman if you're talking about it that way. No, just
actually, yeah. Put that $20 back in your pocket, my guy.
That's right. That's right. But no, so the stories, there's tons of stories, but one that really sticks out is, a guy talks about when we were all in high school, they're going out there to scare some women. So they've got a friend of theirs going out in a car with some girls, and him and a buddy of his is out there going to jump out because this is a little bitty 2-lane. It's really a 1-lane road that two cars could barely squeeze beside each other. And so they're going to jump out of the darkness and scare everybody. So they get in place and the car pulls up and they do that. And so now they've got like a mile walk back to their vehicle. And so as they're walking down this little bitty gravel road, they hear something in the wood line pacing them. And so they stop and it stops. And so then they start walking again. And after they take a few steps, it starts walking with them again too. And so they start getting scared. They're thinking, what's going on? What's happening? Is someone following us in the woods? And so as they go, all of a sudden this thing like screams at them. It roars.
Yeah.
And it takes off running. And then it gets on all fours and runs across the road as they're there and goes on through the creek area and then kind of turns back around and roars at them again. And by this time they're running as fast as they can.
Yeah.
And this thing takes back off after them. And they said that it was the scariest thing that's ever happened to them there.
Is this in Loudon or is this nearby?
It's in Loudon. Yeah, it's
Loudon,
literally
Monroe County.
It's literally not even 10 minutes from our house.
I will do that then. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. And then also there's it's always was called a well, but it's a spring house. And supposedly a little girl drowned in that spring house. And so sometimes people see a ghost there of a little girl and all kinds of other stuff. And
is that in Loudon?
That's at the same place. It's all at the same place. Yes, sir.
Have you seen the ghost?
I have not seen the ghost. When we did our last little, we was going there to do just a paranormal investigation of the well or of the spring house. Something was off in the woods throwing rocks at us. And I wish I would have brought my thermal or my night vision goggles. I didn't, but there was something in the woods throwing, and you could hear in the video at one point it passed right by Jason, and Jason's like, "That's it, I'm done, let's go."
Yeah, I mean, it came whizzing by my head, and we're in this well house with block walls and a big roof over it, so it's not falling on us.
Yeah, nothing's falling down, it's coming in sideways.
And it hit that stone wall, and I got up. I said, I can't sit with my back.
Like, I'm done.
I can't sit with my back to these.
So I said, okay, we'll swap. So I sat there.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
That sounds very cool. Very interesting.
Also, I caught a mist.
Yeah.
On the camera.
Yeah, it was weird.
In the same place.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because he catches it at first, and he looks at me and he goes, "David," he goes, "Can you see your breath?" So I go, "Nope." And then all of a sudden you see it again come like really close to the camera lens. Yeah, and it's like, wow. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on there then.
Yes.
It's obviously a spot. It's interesting how you have these spots of this intensity of paranormal activity or strangeness. And I wonder, what causes them. I really do.
Yeah.
How do they formulate? I'm not professing that you might have answers. I don't have answers, certainly, but
right.
Well, where do these things come from? It's really weird.
It is, and I don't know. I mean, without getting too wooey, I mean, a lot of people would be like, maybe it's a, ley lines or something like that. I don't know. It is fascinating where you have these places like Skinwalker Ranch and places like that where they just seem to have a lot of activity.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that people from a wide variety of background see these things, not just people with an interest in it, like us. Yeah. So when I went to Skinwalker Ranch area, I was with one of my friends is a guy called Ryan Skinner. He did the Blind Frog Ranch stories, and he comes in that a lot. He's in that, and he took us around in the middle of the night to the Skinwalker Ranch area. So we're wandering over the desert there, and he's out there a lot. And one of the guys was with us was an army psychiatrist, so very sort of credible witness. His job is he has to be very cogent in order to deal with the sort of things he deals with. And he said, we were moving around this area. We were within visual range of one another, but we were a few hundred yards. Yeah. So there's enough light to see, like for the moonlight to see around. And where our vehicle was, he comes like astonished. He said, I've just seen several black shadow figures walking around our vehicle. So it wasn't a guy who was going to be prone to fanciful notions. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he was astonished, and he was talking about it, and he expected to see nothing, and yet there you have it. And yes. I always think those are very good witnesses, because he was able to suspend his ego enough to accept it because he was curious, and I like that.
That's hard for some people to do. Like you said, just stop that ego for a minute. That our ego is something that we hang on to I think a little bit too much. And
you don't want to. Don't want to accept these things. It's like a cognitive dissonance point. Yeah. I remember going to the Congo with a zoologist, and he was adamant that the Lake Tele would have no tributaries off it. And when we got there, it did have massive tributaries off it, big waterways that linked on. Because I said they did, because we were, and he and I came back first of all because I'd been out in a pirogue with two of the Bantu tribesmen, and he refused to accept it. And I was like, John, you need to come with me now. And when I showed him it, I had to physically show it, because even though we were at the lake, he still didn't believe it, even though I'd just come back from one, because he didn't want to. He didn't want to. So, and then that was that.
Did he at least accept it once he finally saw it?
He did, but he crumpled up. It hit him hard. Yeah. It hit him hard because he started to think that that he was going to be his ideas and his values were going to be radically changed, and people can be very resistant to that.
Yeah.
Some people just don't want that to happen. That isn't the case for us. Yes, and I accept that Natalie would make a fine ghost. I'm sure she would. You know, but we don't want to, I mean, some people just don't want to accept the notion of unless they're presented with very, very hard evidence. And it doesn't mean that they're not good people. And I gave you an example earlier on where my mother refused to accept anything paranormal, refused, until she had no choice. And it has to be at that level for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I've never been myself. People have said to me, you know, well, what do you think about, and what do you say to people who don't believe in Bigfoot or don't believe in this, that, and the other? And I'm like, dude, I don't care. I'm not out to evangelize people. I'm not standing for the Bigfoot party or the Makile Membe party or whatever it is. I'm interested in providing evidence, and I want you to enjoy what I do, sure. But I'm not prepared to persuade you as such.
Yes.
That's not what I'm about. I'm about answers to questions to satisfy my curiosity. You know, that's always been an adventure. That's always been what I've been about. It's not to persuade Betsy Sue, who lives down the road, that Bigfoot's real. I don't care what she thinks, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't care. You know.
Well, that's the first thing, you know, when Jason and I do our talks about the paranormal, that's one of the first things we talk about is the fact that, you know, we're not doing this in any way, shape, or form to try to convince you that any of this is real. Either you're going to or you're not. You're going to look at the evidence and say it's real or you're not. You know, I mean, there's no other way about it. And
sometimes, though, I can't understand with all the evidence of Sasquatch and Bigfoot that people still can't believe it. I mean,
because they don't want to, because it's outside their. It goes to that cognitive dissonance point. It's outside their conceptual thinking.
Yes.
So, you know, if you don't go outdoors or outside in the countryside and you live in the city, and you know, and you watch, I don't know, the Kardashians or whatever, and that's your life experience, why should you believe in Bigfoot?
Right.
It's too fanciful a notion for you to grip.
Yes.
Now we live in fairly rural areas. Yeah, we've been interested in these things for years.
Yep.
My man there can see ghosts. You know, he's never going to have a conservative mindset because of what happens to him. And with us, you know, we've got a lot of natural curiosity. Some people just aren't that curious. They just don't give a stuff. Yeah, and they really don't. And I learned that to my shock. I'll just give you one example because I want to make this point to you so you can see, because your thinking is very different from most people. So when I finished university, I had to get a job very quickly because I had, you know, bills to pay. Mm-hmm. And I started working selling these things called trackers, which I think they were called LoJacks in the United States.
Yes.
But basically, I sat on a table selling them. It was my first job after university. And they put me on a table, and it was really ridiculously hierarchical because I was good at selling these things. So they put me with the two other best sellers, and we were on this open plan table, and this woman called Carol and this woman called Karen. And they were really nice people. But in the morning, all they would talk about, was what sandwich they were going to eat in between lunch. And I couldn't believe this conversation could carry on every day for hours in between calls. It wasn't constant, you know, they'd take calls or whatever. But it did. It really did. And in the afternoon, it was what soap opera they were going to watch that night. And apart from a bit of peppering of their kids, that was all they ever talked about. And they were nice people. But if I wanted to get them onto any other subject, they'd look at me politely, like I was, oh, here he goes again on one of his nonsense trips, and go back to the prawn mayonnaise sandwich or whatever, or whatever. And that was what they wanted. They didn't want to be challenged. They didn't want to come out of their comfort zone because that was where they felt they belonged. But what I would say is that the biggest killer of people, I'm going to be very controversial here. The biggest killer of people, in my opinion, because I think it relates to illness, is comfort zone, being stuck in your comfort zone and not moving out of it. You know, just doing that because it's always a bit uncomfortable. So it's like a pair of shoes that just rub a bit because they're not too tight, so you won't throw them out. When you get them on, you're like, oh, these damn shoes, but you still wear them all day, even though they irritate you. That's what the comfort zone really is. It's the comfort zone is elusive because it's not that comfortable, and it's also restrictive because it means you're ending up treading water, just waiting to die. Do not stay in your comfort zone, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my point.
That's awesome. Yes.
So we got time for probably one more question, and then we'll let you give out all your information. But
yeah, sure.
This is a good question. So if Adam Davies had to choose one creature or one location to devote the rest of his life to, try to solve it, what would it be?
Oh, that used to be the Orang-Pendek in Sumatra, because I was always fascinated by that. I knew it was on the edge of extinction, and I wanted to try and get to it before I could. So it was very altruistic. But now it's Bigfoot, because that's the most interesting of the lot, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen the Seljord Serpent. I've seen, I've tracked the Orang-Pendek. I've seen some incredible things, some other things that I could talk about a whole other time. But I've seen some amazing things. But Bigfoot's the most interesting to me. Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been lucky to see him one time. I've seen Bigfoot. And it was a roadside sighting. So back when I used to drive truck, the wife and I were team drivers. So she drove day shift, I drove night shift.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had already switched. It was about 11 o'clock at night. We're driving I-90 in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go deliver that next morning, our load. And, you know, that late at night on I-90, there's almost nothing. I mean, it's dead. And so I'm driving. There's a fog bank that's about 4 car lengths ahead, right? So about 4 car lengths ahead, you would be able to make out, say, the tail lights of a vehicle. You wouldn't be able to make out the vehicle itself. And so coming up right out of the median is a Bigfoot, and he takes about 3 steps across and starts up the other side of the mountain right there before I could even reach him.
Wow.
And it was amazing. I mean, it wasn't a few seconds, but what was crazy is, and it took me a while to driving to try to rationalize what it was I just saw, you know, and that's why I tell people you don't rationalize the irrational, right? You just.
What color was it? What color was it?
He was dark. He was dark colored. I mean, it was nighttime. He was right at that fog bank, but he was dark colored. He was, you know, either a really dark brown or blackish kind of color. And I know that if I pulled over, I could have had a face-to-face conversation in that big truck. I could roll down the windows. I mean, but how massive?
Huge. Those things are huge.
Massive. And how fast they can move, even though they're that.
And that's consistent. Just so you know, that's consistent. So one of the things that we know about Bigfoot is that people often talk about how rapidly it moves. Yeah. And I saw that when I was tracking one on the thermal in Alaska, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same in Nepal. So when I spoke to eyewitnesses in Nepal, they'll talk about how rapidly it moves, almost like a liquid. I mean, so quick, much quicker than we could ever move ourselves across ridiculous terrain. Yes. And I think that's interesting. I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I still think about it every once in a while because it was amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But I want to get out and try to see if I could see him again in his, natural habitat.
The one thing I'd say to you is, yeah, I love it, yeah, but never get too obsessed. Try and do other things. So when people say to me, and I think this is an important point. People say to me, oh, it's lost time, going out and all this lot, because the chances of you seeing anything are very tiny indeed, and that's certainly true. The chances of me seeing anything are very tiny indeed. But for me, I just love being out in nature. I love being out in the woods. A day out in nature is never a day lost. It heals me. I feel good when I'm in nature. I love it. I love being out in the woods. I love being out in nature. And I always have done since I was a child. So I'm, a handful of tangible experiences in my whole life of a strange creatures and phenomena. Absolutely. But I've had wonderful adventures along the way, and I've seen some remarkable things. Yeah. And from that small boy with a crushed leg to now, I can genuinely say I've lived my life. So I don't have any regrets about a damn thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
That's awesome.
So
no regrets.
Yeah. If you want to tell everybody what you're doing or what you're going to be doing and where they can find your books and stuff,
Well, I can find my books on Amazon. The latest is The Moon-Eyed People. As you said before, I have 3 extreme expedition books out. So if it's got my face on it, it's an account of my expeditions over the years. If it's a novel, it's got a piece of art. So Moon-Eyed People is based on those creatures from Georgia, but it also deals with feral people. In terms of my solo stuff, the Adam Davies Explorer YouTube and Adam Davies Explorer website, and I also have an Adam Davies DAVIS public Facebook page. The stuff with Relic Films, that's on the Relic Films website and Facebook page. There's obviously the Vanish coming up on the 31st of January and the conference. So any of the Relic stuff you can find details of on the Relic Facebook page too. So some great films coming up, and some great things planned, as well as there's some other things coming up next year that are going to be really good. So I'm optimistic as ever. I'm a realistic optimist, gentlemen.
That's awesome. Are you planning on being at the Bigfoot festival in Townsend this year?
In Townsend, yes, yeah, on the 2nd of May. Yeah, I will be there. So will Relic.
We'll be there.
Greg and Natalie. I don't know where the Melissa is, but Greg and Natalie, I think, are almost certainly going. Greg's definitely going. Natalie, it depends on her work, I'm sure. But yeah, so I'm going. Yeah, they're going. And I know some of the other guests who are being unveiled, and they're really good. So it'll be a good time. The thing about Townsend is, of course, you can just wander around. So
yes,
I'm into the conferences and the talks like you guys may be, but if you want to see Bigfoot wrestling somebody and that's your jam, then you can go and watch that happening. I'm not sure how that went, but I know it was happening. I could hear the music.
The Sasquatch.
Yeah,
he's almost.
That's
there.
right. Yeah, you
Sasquatch.
said that. Sasquatch.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It goes against the grain to actually say.
It's pretty good. This will be our 3rd year at that. We always set up and do a live show.
Have you seen what I'm wearing, gentlemen?
Oh,
look at that.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, we really appreciate your time. We know
Yes.
you're busy, and hopefully you can come back, and because you got some exciting stories. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, we've done some, but there's plenty more. But thank you for inviting me, gentlemen. And as we're neighbors, I'm sure I'll see you sooner rather than later, eh?
Absolutely.
Yep.
We'll have to get together and do something sometime.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Thank you. You have a good night.
Right. My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. That was Adam Davies.
That was Adam Davies. Very great guy.
That's amazing.
Nice guy.
Nice. Yeah, that's amazing.
Been around the world.
Yes. I would love to do that.
Yeah, he's got a lot of knowledge.
Only time I've ever been out of America is if I drove or going on a cruise. Thanks, everybody.
That's me. Been to the Bahamas. That's about it.
I've been to quite a few places cruising, but
I've never been past Memphis that way.
Wow.
Never.
Yeah, I've done that before I was even a truck driver.
As far as north as I've been would be Kentucky or North Carolina, up in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna have to start getting some miles in, Jason.
I know, right? I'm getting too old.
Want to thank everybody for showing up and being part of the show tonight. It was amazing. Adam Davies was an amazing guest, and want to thank him again for being part of the show. Remember, you can find us at paranormal411.org, Paranormal 411 on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. You can tune in live Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Also Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Also on Saturdays from 10 to 11, if you're in the metro Atlanta area, you can catch us on WDJY-FM. That's 99.1 FM. Also, for listeners outside of Atlanta, you can just go to WDJYFM.com, or you can go to our website, paranormal411.org, and click on the link. Now, we're also on Space Radio and all major podcast platforms. We have 3 books out: East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore Edition 2, Comprehensive Guide to Paranormal Investigations, and The Haunted Ledger. All are available on Amazon or at paranormal411.org. Join us.
See you on Thursday.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Have you ever wondered what lurks in the shadows? What secrets the night hides? What strange phenomena might be happening just beyond your perception? Join us as we journey into the world of the paranormal, exploring everything from ghosts and UFOs to cryptids and unexplained occurrences. From haunted houses to all things paranormal, join us in the search for the truth behind the veil. Welcome to Paranormal 411.